What do you hunt with? The only gun I've seen is the one on the buffet.
Guns? Ha, Steve, it's glunting, not hunting. We use something a bit more sophisticated.
What do you get when you cross a CIA agent, a housewife with a wild past, 2 rebellious kids, an alien, and a talking fish? No, not the setup for a bad joke. It's the Smith family, and they're our patients today. We're putting on our therapist hats and diving deep into the psyche of American Dad's finest. From paranoia to identity crisis, we've got it all. Ready to play armchair psychologist with us? So we've got Stan Smith on the couch, and boy oh boy, is this gonna be a wild ride. Picture a CIA agent trying to relax in a therapist's office. Yeah, it's about as comfortable as you'd imagine. Stan's file? It's like someone took every conspiracy theory ever and turned it into a person. Let's start with the elephant in the room, Stan's unhealthy obsession with national security. This guy's idea of a relaxing evening is probably scanning the neighborhood for Russian spies. But hey, at least he's passionate about his job, right? Now onto Stan's control issues. Remember that time he microchipped his entire family? Yeah, that's not exactly normal parenting 101. It's like he thinks he's running a covert op instead of raising kids. I mean, come on, Stan, tracking your family's every move? That's some next level helicopter parenting. But wait, there's more. Stan's relationship with his dad is a whole other can of worms. Abandonment issues, anyone? It's like every time Stan does something ridiculous, he's secretly yelling, "Dad, look at me!" No wonder he's always coming up with these crazy schemes. It's like he's trying to fill a dad-shaped hole with pure insanity. Speaking of schemes, let's talk about Stan's need for validation. This guy will go to any length to prove he's right, even when he's so wrong. Remember when he tried to prove he was smarter than Steve by joining a think tank? Spoiler alert, it didn't end well. But did that stop him? Nope. Stan's like a bull in a china shop, except the china shop is his own life. Now, I'm not a professional therapist, but I'm pretty sure we're seeing some signs of narcissistic personality disorder here. Stan's got this "I'm always right" attitude that would make Kanye West look humble. It's like he's the star of his own action movie, but forgot to tell everyone else they're just extras. But hey, at least Stan's consistent in his inconsistencies, right? One minute he's Mr. Traditional Family Values, the next he's cross-dressing to infiltrate a Derby Girls team. It's like watching a chameleon try to blend in at a rainbow factory. Alright, so we've dissected Stan's mind, but now it's time to shift our focus to the real wildcard of the Smith household, Francine. You might think you know this blonde bombshell, but trust me, there's more to her than meets the eye. Francine Smith, the seemingly perfect housewife, is actually a ticking time bomb of repressed wild child energy. Her file reads like a roller coaster ride through a field of red flags. Let's start with her abandonment issues, shall we? Turns out being left at an airport by her adoptive parents did a number on her psyche. Who would have thought, right? This need for constant validation and attention is probably why Francine often finds herself at odds with Stan. It's like watching 2 toddlers fight over the same toy, except the toy is the spotlight and the toddlers are, well, grown adults who should know better. But here's where it gets really interesting. Francine's got this constant itch for excitement that often leads to some pretty impulsive behavior. Remember that time she decided to become a cocaine dealer? Yeah, that actually happened. It's like she took a wrong turn at Bake Sale and ended up at Breaking Bad. Now, I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure most suburban housewives don't have brief stint as a drug kingpin on their resumes. This kind of behavior is setting off some major alarm bells in the old psychology department. We're seeing some clear signs of histrionic personality disorder here. It's like Francine's entire life is a performance, and she's always gunning for that standing ovation. But let's not write Francine off as just another attention-seeking housewife. There are moments when she shows surprising intelligence and depth. It's like watching a Mensa member trying to blend in at a monster truck rally. You know there's more going on upstairs, but she's trying really hard to hide it. So what's the diagnosis for our favorite repressed wild child? Well, it's a cocktail of repressed trauma and unfulfilled potential. Shaken, not stirred, with a twist of "what the hell am I doing with my life?" on the rocks, of course. Alright, let's shift our focus to the bundle of hormones and anxiety that is Steve Smith. Ever wonder what a therapist's file on this kid would look like? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the psychological roller coaster that is Steve's mind. First off, let's talk about Steve's constant need for validation from his peers. This kid is so desperate to be liked, he'd probably sell his soul for a seat at the cool kids table. Remember when he joined that boy band just to impress a girl? Yeah, that's not exactly what you'd call healthy behavior, but here's where it gets interesting. Steve's relationship with Stan is like a textbook case of seeking approval from a father figure. You've got this nerdy, insecure kid constantly trying to live up to his dad's macho expectations. It's like watching a chihuahua trying to be a Rottweiler. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work out well for anyone involved. Now, let's not forget Steve's obsession with Lisa Silver. This is what psychologists call idealization, and boy, does Steve take it to the extreme. He's put this girl on such a high pedestal, she might as well be in orbit. It's not just puppy love, it's full-on I'm going to build a shrine in my closet kind of obsession. All these behaviors are pointing towards some pretty clear signs of avoidant personality disorder. Steve's so afraid of rejection that he'd rather live in his own fantasy world than face reality. Speaking of fantasies, have you noticed how often Steve daydreams? It's like his mind is a 24/7 escape room from his awkward reality. But here's the thing. Steve isn't all anxiety and insecurity. There are these moments where he shows surprising confidence, like that time he became a successful author, or when he stood up to Stan's crazy schemes. It's like watching a flower bloom in the middle of a psychological war zone. So what's the diagnosis for our favorite teenage basket case? Well, it's pretty clear we're dealing with a kid who's struggling with self-esteem and identity issues. He's trying so hard to be someone he's not that he's losing sight of who he actually is. It's like he's wearing a cool guy costume that's 3 sizes too big. Alright, let's talk about Hayley Smith, the family's resident rebel with a cause. Or should I say causes. This girl's got more activism in her pinky finger than most people have in their whole body. But here's the thing, is all this passion really about making the world a better place? Or is it just a big middle finger to dear old dad? Hayley's file is like a who's who of social justice movements. One day she's chaining herself to a tree, the next she's organizing a protest against, well, pretty much anything Stan believes in. It's like she's got a dartboard of causes and just throws a dart every morning to decide what she's fighting for today. But let's dig a little deeper here. Hayley's constant need to rebel against her father's values isn't just typical teenage angst. It's like she's trying on different personalities faster than Roger changes disguises. One minute she's a diehard liberal, the next she's surprisingly conservative. It's enough to give you whiplash. Remember when she impulsively married Jeff? That wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a classic case of, I'll show you, Dad. But here's the kicker. Deep down, Hayley's not as different from Stan as she'd like to think. They're both stubborn, passionate, and convinced they're always right. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, even if it rolls downhill and joins Greenpeace. Now, I'm not a licensed therapist, and neither should you play one at home. But if we're armchair diagnosing here, we're seeing some signs that point to borderline personality disorder. The frequent mood swings, the identity issues, the impulsive behavior, it's all there. It's like Hayley's emotional state is a pendulum, swinging wildly from one extreme to another. But here's the thing, Hayley's not just a collection of symptoms. She's a young adult struggling to find her place in the world. Her idealism often crashes headfirst into the harsh realities of life, leaving her disillusioned and searching for the next big cause. It's like she's trying to save the world to avoid dealing with her own issues. Now let's talk about the crown jewel of our therapy session, Roger the Alien. This guy's got more personalities than a box of assorted chocolates, and trust me, you never know what you're gonna get. His file, it's thicker than my college textbooks and twice as confusing. I mean, where do we even start with this shape-shifting, identity-hopping extraterrestrial? Roger's ability to switch personas is like watching a one alien improv show. One minute he's a snooty wine connoisseur, the next he's a washed-up actress from the 80s. It's impressive, sure, but it's also a bit concerning. Remember that time he became Ricky Spanish, the meth dealer? Yeah, that wasn't just a fun costume party. It was a full-on criminal escapade. Now, I'm not a fancy pants psychiatrist, but even I can see we're dealing with some serious dissociative identity disorder here, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Roger's got more issues than a magazine stand. His lack of empathy? Check. Manipulative behavior? Double check. We're looking at some pretty clear sociopathic tendencies. But here's the thing, Roger isn't just a cold, unfeeling alien blob. He's got these moments of surprising vulnerability that make you wonder what's really going on in that big, bald head of his. Like when he thought the family was kicking him out and he actually showed genuine emotion. It's like watching a soap opera, but with more slapping and costume changes. So what's the diagnosis for our favorite extraterrestrial troublemaker? Well, if I had to sum it up, I'd say we're looking at a cornucopia of personality disorders with a side of alien psychosis. It's like someone someone took the DSM-5, threw it in a blender, and poured it into a martini glass for Roger to chug. And the prognosis? Let's just say Roger needs more help than we can provide in this lifetime, or any lifetime for that matter. We're talking about millennia of therapy, folks, but hey, at least he keeps things interesting, right? The real question is, are Roger's personas just a coping mechanism for being stranded on Earth, or is this just how all aliens from his planet behave? Maybe his constant role-playing is his way of trying to understand humanity, or maybe he's just a drama queen who loves attention. Either way, Roger's the kind of patient that would make Freud throw in the towel and go back to selling cocaine. Alright, let's swim into the deep end with our final patient, Klaus Heisler. This guy's got more issues than a fish has scales, and that's saying something considering he used to be a human. You might be wondering, how does a goldfish end up needing therapy? Well, buckle up, because Klaus's story is wilder than a salmon swimming upstream during mating season. First off, let's talk about Klaus's obsession with Francine. This fish has got it bad for Stan's wife, and it's not just a little crush. We're talking full-on, restraining order-worthy infatuation. It's like he's constantly fishing for her attention. Pun absolutely intended. But here's the thing, this fixation isn't just about Francine. It's a symptom of a much deeper issue. Klaus is desperately lonely. Think about it. Klaus used to be a human, an Olympic ski jumper no less. Now he's stuck in a fishbowl, watching life happen around him. That's gotta mess with your head, right? It's no wonder he's constantly trying to be part of the family. Remember when he tried to take over Stan's body? That wasn't just Klaus being weird, okay? It was a little weird. It was a cry for help, a desperate attempt to feel human again. But Klaus isn't just a sad sack of scales. He's got moments of surprising wisdom. It's like sometimes being removed from the situation gives him a unique perspective on the family's shenanigans. Maybe being stuck in a fishbowl isn't all bad. It's like he's got a front row seat to the Smith family circus. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of Klaus's diagnosis. We're looking at a textbook case of species dysphoria with a heaping side of depression. This fishman is struggling with his identity in a major way. He's trapped in a body that doesn't feel like his own, which explains his constant attempts to be more human. It's not just body dysmorphia, it's full-on species dysmorphia. But that's not all. Klaus also shows signs of dependent personality disorder. He's constantly seeking attention and validation from the Smiths, even when they treat him like, well, a fish. It's like he's afraid of being abandoned again, so he clings to any scrap of attention he can get. So what's the prognosis for our finned friend? Well, Klaus needs to accept his fishy fate and find purpose in his bowl. That doesn't mean giving up on being part of the family, but it does mean finding ways to contribute that don't involve trying to steal bodies or win Francine's love. Maybe he could be the family's voice of reason. God knows they need one. Speaking of needing a voice of reason, let's turn our attention to the man who's supposed to be the voice of authority, Deputy Director Avery Bullock. But is he really fit to lead, or is he just a ticking time bomb in a suit? Buckle up, folks, because Bullock's file is a wild ride of classified info and personal shenanigans that'll make your head spin. First things first, let's talk about Bullock's leadership style. It's about as predictable as a cat on catnip. One minute he's all business, the next he's throwing a party that would make Hugh Hefner blush. Remember when he decided to move in with the Smiths? Talk about a boss who doesn't understand personal space. It's like he saw the Mikasa es su casa sign and took it way too literally. But Bullock's issues go way deeper than just being an overbearing house guest. This guy's got more red flags than a communist parade. His mood swings are so intense they could give you whiplash. One second he's praising Stan for a job well done, the next he's threatening to feed him to sharks. And don't even get me started on his hedonistic tendencies. This dude treats the CIA like his personal playground, using government resources for his own pleasure faster than you can say abuse of power. Now, I'm no fancy psychiatrist, but even I can see that Bullock's got some serious narcissistic vibes going on. He's got that classic "I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread" attitude, and heaven help anyone who disagrees. His disregard for others' well-being is so blatant, it's almost impressive. Like that time he used Stan as a human shield without a second thought. Dude, that's not how you treat your employees. But here's the kicker. Beneath all that bravado and borderline illegal behavior, Bullock's got moments of vulnerability that'll catch you off guard. It's like watching a lion suddenly turn into a kitten. These glimpses into his softer side make you wonder what's really going on in that head of his. Is it all an act, or is there a scared little boy hiding behind that mustache? So what's the verdict on our not-so-fearless leader? Well, if I had to slap a label on him, I'd say we're looking at a high-functioning narcissist with a side of potential substance abuse issues. This guy's ego is so inflated, it's a wonder he can fit through doorways. And let's be real, some of his behavior is so out there, you've gotta wonder if there's something else fueling those wild decisions. Alright, let's shift gears and talk about Jeff Fisher, Hayley's eternally baked better half. Now you might think this guy's got it all figured out with his chill vibes and permanent grin, but hold on to your roach clips, folks. There's more to this stoner than meets the bloodshot eye. Jeff's laid-back attitude isn't just a product of his recreational activities. It's a coping mechanism, a smokescreen if you will, hiding some pretty deep-seated insecurities. I mean, the dude's relationship with his dad? Talk about a buzzkill. It's left some serious emotional scars that even the strongest strain can't fully numb. And let's not forget the time Jeff got abducted by aliens. I know, it sounds like something he'd hallucinate after one too many special brownies, but it actually happened. That's some grade A trauma right there, folks. It's no wonder he's always looking for an escape, even if it's just to his happy place on the couch. Now, I'm not saying Jeff's completely hopeless. The guy has moments of surprising clarity that make you wonder if he's secretly a genius, or if it's just a broken clock being right twice a day. But here's the thing, his constant need for Hayley's approval, that's a red flag bigger than the one he probably has hanging in his van. It's like Jeff's stuck in this weird limbo between adolescence and adulthood. He's got the body of a grown man, but the emotional maturity of a teenager who just discovered his dad's secret stash. It's a classic case of arrested development, sprinkled with a hefty dose of unresolved trauma. But here's where it gets really interesting. Jeff's not just dealing with the usual stoner stereotypes. We're seeing some pretty clear signs of dependent personality disorder mixed with a side of PTSD. It's like his brain is a jigsaw puzzle where half the pieces are missing and the other half are from a completely different set. So what's the prognosis for our favorite human hotbox? Well, it's not all bad news. Jeff needs to find his own identity outside of his relationship with Hayley and, well, his relationship with Mary Jane. He's got potential, but he's got to learn to stand on his own 2 feet without leaning on a bong for balance. Well, folks, we've just taken a wild ride through the Smith family's collective psyche, and let me tell you, it's been quite the trip. If there's one thing we can take away from this psychological deep dive, it's that the line between sanity and madness in American Dad is about as thin as Roger's disguises. But here's the kicker. Aren't we all a little bit Smith? I mean, who hasn't had a Stan moment thinking they're always right? Or a Francine flash seeking a bit of attention? The beauty of this show is how it holds up a funhouse mirror to our own quirks and neuroses. So next time you're watching American Dad, remember you're not just laughing at the antics, you're basically conducting an impromptu psych evaluation. Who knows? You might even pick up a thing or two about yourself along the way. Just don't go diagnosing your friends with acute Roger syndrome. Leave that to the professionals, okay?